Good afternoon, everyone. For today's video, we will going to discuss the work of Amando V. Hernandez. Dipang, Langit. Background of the author. Amando V. Hernandez was born on September 13, 1903 and died on March 24, 1917. Amando V. Hernandez, commonly known as Amando V. Hernandez, was a Filipino writer and a labor leader who was known for his criticism of social injustice in the Philippines and was later imprisoned for his involvement in the communist movement. He was the central figure in a landmark legal case that took 13 years to settle. While still a teenager, he began writing in Tagalog for the newspaper Watawat. He would later write a column for Tagalog publication Pagkakaisa and became the youngest katnugot editor of Mabuhay long-lived at the age of 28. His writing gained the attention of Tagalog literature, and some of his stories and poems were included in anthologies such as Cludaldo del Mondos, Parulang Minto, and Alejandro Abadilla's Talaang Bughaw. In 1922, at the age of 19, Hernandez became a member of the Literary Society, Aklatang Bayan, which included noted Tagalog writers Lope D. Santos and Jose Corazon de Jesus. In 1932, he married the Filipino actress Atal Lama. Both of them would later be recognized as national artists, Hernandez for literature, Dilarama for the theater, dance, and music. Amando Vera Hernandez was born in Agunoy, Bulacan, but grew up in Tondo, Manila. He studied at Manila High School at the American Correspondence School. While being a reporter, columnist, and editor of several newspaper and magazine including Watawat, Mabuhay Pilipino, Makabayan, and Sampaguita, he also honored his poetic craft and he received the Republic Cultural Heritage Award, a number of palantas, and award from the National Press Club for his journalistic achievements. He published short stories in different newspapers among Wala ng Lunas, Kulang sa Dilag, Langaw ng Isang, Pasang Gatas, Dalawang Metro sa Lupang Di Malipad ng Uwak, Land of the Switches Forever, ipinanganak ang isang kaaway ng sa syudad. And of course, isang ulo ng lechon at head of the and islap ng utak pawis ng mga.
So now I will share or please listen the summary of the Dipang.
Isang Dipang Langit ni Amado V. Hernandez. Ako'y ipiniit ng linsil na puno, hangad palibhasang diwa ko'y piitin, katawang marupok, aniyay pagsuko, damdami supilnat, mithiin ay supil. Ikinulong ako sa kutang malupit, bato, bakal, punlo, balasik ng bantay. Lubos na tiwalag sa buong daigdig, at inaring kahit buhay man ay patay. Sa munting dungawan, tanging abot malas, ay sandipang langit na puno ng luha, maramot na birang ng pusong may sugat, watawat ng aking pagkapariwara. Sintalim ng kidlat ang mata ng tanod, sa pintong may susit walang makalapit. Sigaw ng bilanggo sa katabing moog, anaki at tungal ng hayop sa yungib. Ang maghapoy tila isang tanikala, nakala-kaladkad ng paang madugo. Ang buong magdamag ay kulambong luksa, ng kabaong waring lungga ng bilanggo. Kung minsay magdaan ang payak na yabag, kawil na kadena ang kumakalanding, sa maputlang araw saglit ibibilad, sanlibong aninong iniluwa ng dilim. Kung minsan ang gabi biglang magulantang, Sa hudyat may takas at asod ng punlo. Kung minsay tumangis ang lumang batingaw, sa bitayang moog may naghihingalo. At ito ang tanging daigdig ko ngayon, bilanggo ang mandilibingan ng buhay. 10, 20 at lahat ng taon ng buong buhay ko'y dito mapipigtal. Ngunit yaring diway walang takot hirap, at batis pa rin itong aking puso. Piit ay bahagi ng pakikilamas, mapiit ay tanda ng hindi pagsuko. Ang tao't bathala ay di natutulog, at di habang araw ang api ay api. Tanang paniniil ay may pagtutuos, habang may Bastilya ay may bayang gaganti. At bukas diyan din aking matatanaw, sa sandipang langit na wala ng luha. Sisikat ang gintong araw ng tagumpay, layang sasalubong ako sa paglaya.
So now, after listening to the summary of the poem Isang, Dipang, Langit, so let's go to the analysis. Isang, Dipang, Langit was wrote by Armando Hernandez when he was in prison. That time, Hernandez is in prison, so basically, the poem tells us about the pain, sufferings, and hope of a prisoner. A caged man in the poem solely describes vividly the pain of a life devoid of physical freedom and the audacity of the spirit regaining freedom. The poem points to the singular power of human, while only the physical body can be incarcerated. Freedom, which is the subject of the poem, may be the poet's personal aspiration, liberation from the four walls of the believed prison, and from the charge of subversion leveled against him. But his search for personal freedom may as well be viewed as the cry of the masses against oppression and their ardent aspiration for a genuine freedom. Patriotism and love for fellow countrymen is a life worth living. So Armando Hernandez wrote the poem when he was in prison. So basically, the poem tells us about how his life in the prison, where he can only see the four walls and freedom is not presented, or he cannot feel that he has freedom. So in that point of his life, he created, or he made the poem, which will also aspire those fellow countrymen that because of injustice that happened in that year, they were in prison just because they are against of the government organization. So Lailani will continue the analysis.
So in continuation of my performance, Hernandez fulfilled his own duty, which is to fight and die in the name of our motherland, because it was a promise of every Filipino written under Lupang Hira, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo. So, Fernando Hernandez is the most serviceable Filipino revolutionary artist of the 20th century, whose poetry, fiction, and plays in Filipino continue to inspire the popular struggle for national democracy and genuine independence against U.S. imperialism. So, Amado V. Hernandez served as an intelligence officer during the Japanese occupation of the Philippines and met some guerrillas from the Hukbalahap during the World War II. The seeming inability of the government to provide for the protection of their most basic rights voted him to invest his personal resources in helping the nameless masses. So, Amado V. defined to be the representation of oneself. And that was truly shown on the writings who fought using their pen. So Filipinos, including Amado Hernandez, showed nationalism through their works. They opened the eyes of the Filipino natives to what was happening and triggered their eagerness to fight for what they believe, to stop the slavery on our own land and regain our freedom. So after the war, he became a labor leader and freedom fighter, spending much of his time to promote the social equality in order to alleviate the plight of the working class. As a result, he was detained in a humiliated prison. Isang Langit, one of his masterpieces, was based on his prison experiences. So, after the war, Hernandez assumed the role of public intellectual. So, what do you mean by public intellectual? So, Fernando Hernandez is an intelligent officer, provide a service that is crucial for our national defense. So, intelligent officers, so they develop and execute plans, policies, and procedures that facilitate intelligence function. So, Hernandez was arrested on January 26, 1951, and accused of complicity with the communist-led uprising, and during the time in which he was imprisoned in various military camps for 5 years and 6 months, he made some literary works that inspires and motivates the Filipino people. So now let's move forward to the moral lesson and theme, which will be discussed by Ms. Maxine.
So the theme of the poem is whatever challenges that might come to a man's life, he may overcome them all by a strong faith in God. Being in prison does not mean that you are guilty with the crime you have done. It only implies that our government should exercise more its judiciary powers to give fair justice and freedom to those who are framed up and oppressed. So we know that these circumstances is very common even before, and until now, this kind of situation is still happening because of the lack of fair justice. The freedom is only given to those in high position, those who are poor, those in the low level of life standard are not being given the right justice for them. So the theme of the poem also serves as the moral values that we can get from this. This poem teaches us that no matter what happens in our lives, like what the poem expresses, that we just have to be strong, that we just have to build our faith in God, that no matter what happens in our lives, we just have to pursue and continue and trust that everything happens for a reason and all things will work together for good. If we just trust in the Lord through His power, and everything will be put into its proper places, and at the end of the day we will always gain the right justice for each and every one of us. And that's all for the theme and the moral lesson of the poem, Isang Dipang.
Thank you so much for listening. This is Group 1.